Sorry, Midnight's comes out tomorrow, so I'm getting hyped, don't mind me. Guys, welcome back. It's been a moment. I've been on a little bit of a hiatus. Life has gotten the best of me, but I'm back. I'm excited. I'm feeling very creative and I can't wait to show you what I've been up to, what I've been reading. So I thought, what better way for us to have a little bestie catch up? You know, we're out having coffee. I'm filling you in on what I've been up to the past couple months. And I thought, what better way of doing that than ranking the books that I've read from mid-July to mid-October and showing you. Also, very exciting news. So originally at the start of the year, this has sort of been my first proper year where I've been into reading. And so I was being gentle at the start of the year, setting it at about 15 books. Yeah, safe to say I hit that by like February. So then I pushed it out to 30 thinking, oh my God, 30 books, that's huge. How the hell am I gonna do that? And then I hit that. And so I set out and said, you know what? I'm gonna challenge myself. I'm gonna read 52 books in 52 weeks. That's a book a week. And I thought, oh boy, like some weeks I may not be having a good reading week and that might be challenging to keep up with. Yeah, maybe not. I hit my 52 books in 52 week reading goal, maybe end of last month, end of September. So I'm so excited. And now I'm up to 55 out of 52, which just blows my mind. I can't even, like, you sit there and you think, compared to some other, you know, booktubers or book talkers, that's nothing. But what I do is I picture my bookshelf filled with 55 books, and then that blows my mind. So it feels really good, and I'm just excited to see how far I can get by the end of December. Anyways, let's cut to the chase. Let's get into the ranking of my 17 books I've read from mid-July to mid-October. So number 17 was You Will Never Be Forgotten by Mary South. If You Will Never Be Forgotten was a Pinterest board, it would look like this. This book is a collection of short stories. It's very Black Mirror-esque. So in this provocative, bitingly funny debut collection, people attempt to use technology to escape their uncontrollable feelings of grief or rage or despair, only to reveal their most flawed and human selves. Now that captured me when I started reading, and I thought that's gonna be so contemporary and provocative, and I was just really excited to see what this collection of short stories was going to be like. I found a lot of the stories really hard to get into. I found the language and the sort of syntax of it to be really confusing and detached. So it meant that some of the stories, I'll be honest, I ended up skipping over. And don't get me wrong, there was probably 2 or 3 of them that I thought were quite interesting and, you know, they weren't a challenge to read. But overall, I struggled with this book. I ended up giving it a 1 out of 5 stars. And that 1 was for those stories that I actually enjoyed. I honestly wouldn't have even rated it if they weren't in there. Number 16 was One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. If One True Loves was a Pinterest board, it would look like this. One True Loves follows Emma and Jesse. They meet in high school, they fall in love, they get married. It's this really romantic story about how they got together and they have this really amazing life together, and then all of a sudden one day Jesse goes missing after a helicopter crash and is presumed dead. It comes back to present day where Emma has moved on. She's mourned, she's still mourning, but she ends up falling for a guy that she knew from high school. She, ends up getting engaged to him, but then one day Jesse is found, and it sort of follows the plot of who will I stay with, you know, is he still the same man that I married, you know, feeling guilt for mourning someone but then moving on. And I thought I would have enjoyed this so much more than I did. And look, honestly, I thought that the plot of this was going to be amazing, and it at times was. It was pretty intriguing, getting a glimpse into, you know, like what would happen if I was in this scenario. But at times I just found it a little whiny and the challenges to be just a little dry, and it just wasn't what I wanted out of it. So for that reason, I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Number 15 is Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. If Hopeless was a Pinterest board, it would look like this. Hopeless is about Sky. She's a high school student and she meets a guy called Dean Holder. It follows their relationship, and the whole premise of it is uncovering past secrets and memories of Sky's and how Dean is linked to her and is driven to go after her, and the intention behind why it was a meet cute. I didn't hate Hopeless. I just found it was unnecessarily dark, super heavy topics. I would definitely recommend reading the trigger warnings prior to this. It deals with a lot of heavy themes, and at times I felt like it talked about those themes and it brought up those themes and issues for no reason. It was almost like being controversial and having that controversial factor, like it was doing it just for that. I didn't really like their relationship, Sky and Dean. I found it to be quite toxic. I don't know, I think it's also that it was a high school romance. I'm not really a big high school romance gal. It makes me kind of feel a bit icky. So for that reason, I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars. Number 14 was The Guest List by Lucy Foley. If the guest list was a Pinterest board, it would look like this. The guest list follows a wedding on a remote island off the coast of Ireland. Similar to other Lucy Foley books, it goes through the different perspectives, which I always love. It's another sort of Taylor Jenkins Reid trope and writing style that I personally really love. Basically, all you know at the start of the book is that there's a murder. And you're basically following on from the time of the murder, and you're going back to as the guests are arriving, and there's a lot of secrets, there's a lot of twists, there's a lot of turns, and it's quite a dark book, to be honest. I loved The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. It was probably one of my favorite mystery thrillers, and I love her writing style, so this was a super hyped up book for me. I was really excited to get my hands on it. It wasn't my favorite. It definitely wasn't on the same level of, you know, twists, turns, and the build up as Paris Apartment, but it was still good. I still enjoyed it. I found what it was missing, it was a bit slow, and that it would kind of allude to secrets, but not in a way that really kept me gripped. The plot twist at the end, I thought it was good. But it wasn't as impactful as I thought it would be hyped up to be. And for that reason, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Number 13 was The Roommate by Rosie Dannon. If The Roommate was a Pinterest board, it would look like this. The Roommate follows Clara, who has moved across the country to follow a guy. She's pretty reserved, well-behaved, quite, I wouldn't call her a prude, but she's bordering on that. And she thinks she's moving in with this guy that she has a crush with, but all of a sudden he goes AWOL and goes off on some tour. Who fills his place is someone, a complete stranger, and she has no clue about what his background is. And turns out he is a, let's call him adult entertainer. It's honestly just a really nice sex positive romance. I thought it was going to be a lot dirtier and steamier than it was. I think the way that it tackled topics of porn industry and you know, sexual empowerment, it was really positive, and it wasn't drawn on negatively or, you know, made this big stigma around it that was unnecessary. And yes, it was really spicy at times, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I didn't go into it thinking it was going to be a 5-star read, and it wasn't a 5-star read, but I went into it not expecting to like it as much as I did. I found it really lovable, and I found the characters really lovable. So for that reason, I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. Number 12 was Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. If Everything I Never Told You was a Pinterest board, it would look like this. And Everything I Never Told You follows a Chinese American family in the 70s. It's technically a historical fiction, and all you know is that Lydia, the eldest daughter, is dead. And the whole plot follows obviously uncovering how Lydia died. Was she murdered? Was it a suicide? Also the reason why it happened. She came off like the perfect child that, you know, was getting amazing grades, had amazing friends, but you slowly uncover throughout the book that it's all lies and it's all deceptions purely to keep the family happy. And I think it tackled some really important messages and themes related to immigrant families and the pressure that the children have placed on them to do all the things that their parents never got to do, and to change the course of the family's line. I mean, what happened in the end, I was expecting it to be something completely different. I was expecting it to be something more sinister, but what it was a dramatic historical fiction about family and loss, and secrets, deception. And I found the themes of it to be really gripping and engaging. It was a relatively quick read. I think that I went into it with the wrong expectations, and that then impacted the way that I enjoyed the book, because it almost left me wanting something more. But I gave Everything I Never Told You 3 out of 5 stars. So number 12 is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This was actually the most recent book that I read. If The Midnight Library was a Pinterest board, it would look like this. The Midnight Library follows Nora, who at the beginning of the book is depressed. Life is not going her way, and she contemplates suicide and attempts to commit suicide. But where she's taken is almost in this limbo between life and death, where she gets to look into all the different possibilities of different ways that her life could have gone, and to look at, you know, what were her regrets and what would have been if she didn't have those regrets and if she didn't, you know, leave them unfulfilled. And it was really inspiring. I didn't really know much about it besides it was a very popular book. I actually got the copy off of my mum. Thank you, Debs, love you. And yeah, I didn't really know what I was expecting. I think it'd been sitting on my bookshelf for like, I'm gonna say 4 months, because I just didn't know if I'd like it and I didn't know what I was getting into. And it was a really quick read. I think it's only about 280 pages, 290 pages. And I found it to be really inspiring. I found the premise of it to be really engaging and really fast paced. Because it was taking you through the different versions of Nora and the different way that her life could have unfolded if, you know, something small had changed. And that was really fun and it was really engaging. The premise of it was really amazing, but there was nothing in it that really made me think, oh my God, this has left a lasting impression on me for so long. I'm gonna think about this forever. I'm gonna reread this. I probably won't reread it. I think it's something that's nice and it makes you think, and it's quite philosophical, and it's just, I think it's a read that you should read. But this book I gave 3 out of 5 stars. So we're up to number 10, and number 10 was Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. If Rock, Paper, Scissors was a Pinterest board, it would look like this. Rock, Paper, Scissors follows Mr. and Mrs. Right, which I think is the best play on words. I thought it was so funny when I first saw it. And it follows Adam and Amelia. They are on their wedding anniversary. They take a trip to a really, really remote loch in Scotland during the middle of winter. Every year, Amelia writes a letter for Adam. Basically what it does, the structure of the book follows a letter, so 1 year of the wedding anniversaries, and then goes back to present time. And what this trip was is sort of a last ditch effort to save their marriage. And they have a lot of secrets and it's really sinister and you don't know what's going to happen, and there's a lot of mysterious characters in it that you just got no clue like where it can go. And when I tell you, there was a twist at the end of this book that I did not see coming. It was one of those twists where you literally think you are the one that got it wrong, and that like, oh no, I read that wrong, I don't really get it. And then it hits you and you're like, I am so stupid, how did I not notice that for this whole book? Like, it's been alluding to it this whole book. There was a missing piece of information this whole book and I just didn't notice. I think the only letdown of this was more so that it followed a lot of the marriage issues and it was quite dramatic and quite involved in that side of it, and I didn't really read it for the sake of basically being a therapist between a couple that should very clearly be divorced. That was the only thing that let it down, but the twist, oh my God, so good. And for that reason I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. So number 9 was The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. If The Wall of Winnipeg and Me was Pinterest board, it would look like this. And The Wall of Winnipeg and Me is a romance that follows Vanessa and Aiden. He is a highly regarded NFL player in America. He's Canadian, hence the title of the book. Vanessa starts off as his assistant. They have a really rocky relationship. It's definitely an enemies to lovers. And she quits, but then all of a sudden Aiden comes knocking on her door, begging her to stay, and what unfolds is a forced proximity relationship. And when I tell you, I love a forced proximity relationship. I think it started because one of my favorite romance series is A Beautiful Disaster, and that was very forced proximity, and now I just love everything that's similar. And I really enjoyed this book. I think the characters and their relationship was really well laid out. It was just one of those things that's just like, please get together already. Oh, I just love you too. My only hang up with this book, it is the slowest burn I could ever have possibly imagined. It's like watching paint dry on a wall, slow burn. And look, it's great because you get all this tension, and right towards the end of the book, you're like, just hook up already. And so when it happens, it's like, bellissimo. But be prepared to wait until 97% of the way through the book to get some spice. I gave The Wall of Winnipeg and Me 3 out of 5 stars. So number 8 was Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. If Something Wilder was a Pinterest board, it would look like this. And Something Wilder is a treasure hunting outback romance. What a weird combo. And it follows Lily Wilder, who owns a, I guess, treasure hunting tour. And her dad was Duke Wilder, who was a famous treasure hunter out in sort of rural America. It flashes back to when she was a bit younger, between a relationship with her and Leo. He comes out to a ranch that she owns. They fell madly in love. He has to go back to the city. They never find out, they never reconnect again, and it leaves this big divide between them until Leo ends up on one of her tours. Took a very unexpected twist. I thought it was gonna be super light-hearted and just be like, cool, we're out in, you know, the desert going treasure hunting and kissing, ooh. And it got really dark. What I would call it is an action adventure romance, and I think that sums it up really well because there was a lot of action in it, there was a lot of adventure in it. But I wasn't foreseeing the action. But I found them to be really lovable. I really liked Lily's sort of grit and her loyalty and her determination. I loved Leo and his brains and how they paired together. And I gave that book 4 out of 5 stars. Fun story related to this book is I get most of my books from the library, and it was no different. Something Wilder I borrowed, and then I returned it and I got an email saying, hi, you have to pay us $15, you damaged a book. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't damage books, I'm not. Yeah, so apparently I did damage this book. So now I own it. I have to buy it out from the library, and like all it was, yeah, that little stain on the bottom. And I had to buy it out. So now it looks like I stole it from the library because they've got the library sticker on it. So yeah, that happened. Number 7 was The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren, another Christina Lauren book. The Soulmate Equation was a Pinterest board. It would look like this. So the soulmate equation follows Jess. She is a single mother, has basically given up on love, goes out on all these really horrible dates until she signs up for the newest dating service where you are genetically matched of how connected or how much of a soulmate you are with this person. One day she gets a diamond match, which is like the highest possible match you can ever possibly get. The highest possible match that was ever recorded in the history of Genetically, the dating service. And who is that with? No other than Dr. Rivapina, who is the founder of Genetically. They basically go on like a PR relationship because this is the first time this has ever happened and it will make them so much money. He basically promises to pay her money if they pretend to be dating, and what happens? They fall in love. And I thought this was fun. For some reason I love sciencey romances. Enemies to lovers, who doesn't love it? So yeah, this was a really good book. It was easy to read through, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Number 6 is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. If The Thursday Murder Club was a Pinterest board, it would look like this. The Thursday Murder Club is a very campy murder mystery that follows 4 amateur sleuths who live in a retirement village in England. They have a club which is called the Thursday Murder Club, where they investigate cold cases. One day a murder happens in their town, so they think, what better way to get involved than to solve a real one? And it's very unorthodox. It's just a really fun twist on a traditional crime novel, and you follow these 4 really outlandish elderly characters. Elizabeth, who just has such a charm to her and such a charisma that she can get anything she wants, including things out of the police. Joyce, she writes in like a journal, which is part of the structure of the novel, and just seeing her thoughts and seeing how distracted she gets, like it's literally like I'm reading about my grandparent. And it was just really fun and at times dark, but always with a light-hearted spin on it. But I did really enjoy this, so I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. So number 5 was The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. If this book was a Pinterest board, it would look like this. So this book follows Avery. Avery is a high school student who has had a bit of a rocky upbringing, not a lot of support, not a lot of money backing her, so it hasn't been the easiest life. And then one day she finds out that she is the sole heir of this multi-million-billion-dollar family, and was written into the will as their grandfather of this family dies. She has no obvious connections or obvious links to them. The only way that they can find out is the grandfather, he would leave riddles and sleuths, puzzles, things for the 4 grandsons to solve. So this was a really fun adventure. It just felt like one big puzzle, and that made it really gripping and really engaging to get through, because you just wanted to know, what is Avery's link to this family and to be the sole heir of this family. I found the brothers to be really interesting. They're all very different, and their relationships with one another and their relationship with Avery. I didn't find the writing of it was too YA. I found it to be good as an adult reading it, and I really enjoyed it. So I gave The Inheritance Games 4 out of 5 stars. Which leads me to number 4, which was The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the second book in the Inheritance Games series. I love this one. I found that I enjoyed it a little bit more than the first book in the series, more so because I already knew who the characters were. There was no time setting up the characters, the plot, the family, and it was literally just drama within the family, trying to solve puzzles. And when you found out how she was connected, it was great. I really enjoyed it, and I definitely will be reading The Final Gambit. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, but I really want to. But I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. Up to my top 3, and number 3 was The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. If The Book Thief was a Pinterest board, it would look like this. The Book Thief follows Liesel, who is a young girl living in late 1930s, 1940s Nazi Germany, so obviously living through World War II. And one day she comes across the Gravedigger's Handbook, which is outlawed. She's not supposed to be reading this, but she has this fascination with it and soon starts stealing books from around town, trying to learn and trying to keep herself company during the tough time that was. The main plot follows a foster family who end up illegally taking in a Jewish boy and hiding him in the basement. When I say this was heartbreaking, it was so heartbreaking. If you've watched my vlog where I read The Book Thief and I sobbed my absolute eyes out. Back to the home you made on a mountain. Oh, my face hurts. It was just such an emotional ending, and it's one of those books you just need to read in your lifetime. Like, there's no one I wouldn't recommend this book to, because it's just so important. It's a really, really heartbreaking story of what happened in this really awful time of history, that there were those people that were kind and loyal and just had humanity in mind, and no matter the consequence. So for that reason, I gave The Book Thief 4 out of 5 stars. Number 2 was Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. If Big Little Lies was a Pinterest board, it would look like this. Big Little Lies follows a group of women who all have children in the same year at a kindergarten. It basically follows all of these women, what the lives are like behind closed doors. They're all these women that have these fronts of their lives being perfect, but it's very clear that each of them has these really dark pasts or things that are happening to them that it just doesn't seem like that on the front when you're looking at them. But the main plot of this follows one of the kids, Ziggy, who is accused of bullying, physically assaulting one of the other girls in the class. And because of this, all of these things unfold and it ends up leading to a murder. You just don't know who died or who did it. So it's structured in that you're at the night of the murder, which is conveniently at one of the school events, and then you're getting a glimpse into the past, into each of the women's lives. So it's a lot of alluding to, you know, oh, I could kill someone right now, and I just thought it was so funny, and I loved how you got to have that honest, raw look into their lives and really see how imperfect everyone is, even though they put on this facade of being perfect. And when it came to the end and the reveal happened, I was gooped, gagged, shocked, blown away, distraught, screaming. I was everything. And it was so good. Honestly, so good. I ended up watching the TV show after it, which was good. I mean, I kind of just wanted to watch it to see like the A-list cast that was in it together. I don't plan on watching season 2. I've heard that it's rubbish because it's not based on the book. It's just something that was made for TV only. But I gave Big Little Lies 5 out of 5 stars. And number 1, oh my God. This book is easily gonna be in my top 3 for the year. When I say I was obsessed with it from the minute I picked it up, I was obsessed with it from the minute I picked it up. It was so incredible. And number 1 was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. If The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue was a Pinterest board, it would look like this. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue follows Adeline LaRue. She's born in the late 1600s in a small French village. It's one of those times and those places where you're born in the same place, you have a family in the same place, and you die in the same place. And it's a very, very small life, and that's something that Addie was not wanting to sign herself up for. She wanted freedom. And so on the day of her basically arranged marriage, she runs into the woods and makes a deal with a dark god for freedom. But what she doesn't know is that this is basically setting her up for a curse. She gets to live forever, but no one will remember her. So she lives over the course of about 300 years, and it takes you across countries and times, and you see, you know, the French Revolution, you see world wars, and it's her interacting with all these people and artists and how she influences them without them remembering her. What I loved was at the start of every part, similar to what you'd see in like a gallery where it's got, you know, the background of the art, of the artwork, the artist. It had that, and it was artworks that she had inspired over the course of the 300 years, which I thought was a beautiful touch. But the main plot of this is 2014, she goes into a bookstore and she meets someone. She doesn't think anything of it. She comes back the next day and he remembers her after 300 years. So it follows their relationship. Everything to the tone, the pacing, the physical structuring of the book, the characters, everything. It was just so perfect. In my mind, I cannot think of a single thing that would have made this book better. It's not many books that I say from the start to the finish, I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked, and that for a 580 page book is pretty bloody good. And for that reason, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And that is it. That was my mid-July to mid-October reads ranked. I hope you enjoyed, and I promise I'm back. I'm gonna try to keep doing content. It's a little bit hard when you don't really have a big following to be forcing you to keep, you know, stay accountable and to keep posting, but doing it for the love of it, and I think that's all that matters. So if you like what you saw and you want to see more of it, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel. It would mean so much to me. And if you don't already, feel free to follow me on Goodreads or Instagram. My links are in the description. But thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have the best day. Bye.